I'd like to welcome everybody out to the November 7th, 2022 meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does any member of council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regards to any item on the agenda? If so, please state at this time. Mr. Borman?
No, sir.
Mr. Phillips?
No, sir.
Mr. Nern?
No, sir.
Mr. Corbett?
No, sir.
Mike?
No, sir.
All right, moving on. Amendment and approval of the draft agenda. We will be adding we'll be asking to add the committee on offshore and what was the other thing? Energy and fisheries. About adding this in, and it would be into the new business, and it would be number 5. I think you've all got the little handout on it.
Yes.
We're looking at that. Anybody got anything else? Anything else needs to be added?
No.
All right. What's the pleasure of council in regards to adding this to the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as amended.
All right.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to the general council discussion. Any member of council have anything? Anybody down that way?
Yeah.
Sir. Veterans Day, November 11th. There will be a service at the town park at 1 p.m. Looks like we're going to have rain. In that case, we'll be at the firehouse. And if you're coming, please bring a chair. That's it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I could just, one quick thing. I want to thank, on behalf of, I think, everybody up here, thank John Farrell and his ERC committee and his subcommittee on climate, which produced a document called Environmental Resource Committee Report Draft. It's a document of Hurricane Ian. It's their observations, recommendations, the summary of weather info, tide info, observations again, pictures of Tubbs Inlet from the hurricanes of 2016, 18, 20, and 22. If you think about that, 2024 could be an interesting year for hurricanes. But anyway, I just want to thank John and his subcommittee on climate and just say that it was a job well done. And I would recommend at least that we put this on the website.
Thank you.
Anything else? Not. Moving on to our presentations. 2021-22 audit report. Mr. Lee Grissom, you have the mic, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm here to present the audit June 30th, 2022. This is our 5th year auditing Sunset Beach, and another good audit. We issued an unmodified, also referred to as a clean audit opinion for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. For this particular audit, we had 3 audit opinions. The financial statement audit, which I just mentioned, clean audit opinion. And then there was internal control audit opinion that were referred to as Yellow Book. So we go through internal controls, and if we find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we report those in the financial statements, which we did not find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls. The third audit opinion was triggered by the state grant expenditures of $1.9 million in your dredging fund for the fiscal year end. We're required to go through compliance field work on that, and again, no audit findings. So clean audit, that's the highest level of assurance that we can provide. Once again, this is our 5th fiscal year that we've audited, and the town is extremely organized. The fact that we were able to get the audit out September 30th, a month ahead of the October 31st deadline. So it's a terrific symbol of the organization that the staff, particularly finance officer and town manager and the rest of them, just to be able to get, the 75-page report, put it together, get the audit out, just shows a great amount of organization and just being able to get their hands on any document that we request. So a terrific job there. We only had 2 minor journal entries, so that just signals that you can rely on the financial information that you received during the fiscal year. And we'll look at the graphs in a moment, which are very strong trends. And also another positive thing to report this evening. A couple of housekeeping items. We did not encounter any significant difficulties with management. We did not adapt any. The town did not adapt any new accounting policies during the year. We did not work with other auditors, and we did not have any disagreements with management. One big thing in the governmental accounting world for you accounting nerds or people that maybe wish they were accounting nerds is GASB 87, and that's the lease. That's for leases. So the typical copier lease, which what you'll see is you'll see a previous to GASB 87, you could either report as an operating expense or set it up as a long-term liability. What's happened with GASB 87, all of these material expense arrangements, such as a copier, if they're material and it's for more than 1 year, you have to put that on your balance sheet as a long-term liability. The same if you have a revenue lease or a tower. If you have a tower that you're renting, you have to capture that long-term asset. So really, that's the new thing. It's been a huge headache. I don't want to get into the details, but a lot of finance officers were thinking about quitting, and they're like, "This is it. I'm going to retire." So it's one of those nightmares for the town of Sunset Beach. There was a $90,000 GASB 87 right of use asset this fiscal year. So didn't impact the town's financials that much. It did scare your finance officership. She did a great job going through the town's leases. Any questions regarding that? Okay, a couple of things before we hit the graph. Just want to touch on the fact that financial statements, as you now have a copy of in front of you, just know that there's several estimates in those financial statements, which depending on which direction you go, could materially impact assets or net income. One of them being depreciation expense. For the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022, depreciation expense was $883,000. So when you set up your assets over time, depending on what your useful life is, it could materially impact your depreciation expense and then the assets on your balance sheet. Another one would be allowance for doubtful accounts. Another material one is your pension liabilities, which is $6.2 million on your balance sheet for June 30th, 2022. So what's going on there is your actuaries are going through your numbers depending on interest rates, or if it's benefits, how long your employees are going to live, et cetera. A lot of these are just estimates. So you have a $6.2 million long-term liability for pensions at June 30th, 2022. And again, those are estimates. So they're not like cash in the bank. You can nail that down. So just know that when you're looking at this, just realize that management does the best job they can, or actuaries do the best job they can. And these impact the numbers, of course. So let's go to the graphs if there's no questions. All right, what we have here, you have 11 fiscal years of graphs going back to 2012 to 2022. The first one is analysis of fund balance, governmental funds. And you can see in the graphs, this is the highest the town's been in your governmental funds at a fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. You're at $12.6 million. That's a $60,000 increase from the prior fiscal year, and that's the highest you've been in 11 fiscal years. Let's go to the next one. This is cash, all funds from 2012 to 2022. And you can see in graph form, June 30th, 2022 is the highest you've been at just under $12.6 million. And just note your ARPA fund money was $645,000. That makes up the increase from 2021 to 2022 is your ARPA fund money. So with that money, you would have likely been flat from 2021 to 2022.
That's American Rescue Plan?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
And one more, let me point that out. Your ARPA fund money, on these financials, it's showing as cash and unearned revenue. We did not show that as revenue. So when it's spent, the revenue portion will match. All right, let's go to page 3. Number of months in reserve, general fund. So any general fund metric is extremely important. This represents your emergency fund for the town. And you can see the last 3 fiscal years, around 95 to 97, 98%. So at June 30th, 2022, if you take your unassigned fund balance divided by your general fund total expenditures, you were at almost a full year in reserve at almost 98%. So it's a very healthy range. Your unassigned fund balance at June 30th, 2022 was $8.2 million. So again, strong emergency fund for the town. Let's go to the next one. And as I mentioned, there were 3 auditor opinions, one of them being single audit, which is compliance field work. The dredging project fund presented in graph 4. You see how it drops from 2021, you had 1.6 million, and it drops down to 309,000. There was $1.9 million of expenditures in the dredging fund. It was on page 65 of the report, if you want to notate that. But that money triggered additional audit field work this year. Let's go to page 5. This is long-term liabilities. Now, these are traditional liabilities. It does not include pension liabilities or compensated absences. So at June 30th, 2022, you're at 827,000. Most of that increase, which occurred in 2020, was your fire truck purchase in April of 2021. Let's go to the next one. This is property tax collection percentage by fiscal year. At June 30th, 2022, 99.58. So, very high collection percentage. So exactly what you want to see. So overall, just very strong trends. Is there any questions?
I have my favorite question. What was the answer?
Thumbs up.
Better, one word.
Great job by the staff.
All right. That's close. Excellent. It's usually what it is.
That works. Anything else?
Any more questions?
Any additional?
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
warm
Thank
night.
you
Good
very
job.
much.
Evening.
Moving on next to our dredging dredging project update. Mr. Sam Morrison, you have the mic, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Thanks for inviting us here tonight to update you on the dredging project. First, I'd just like to kind of give you a little bit of update of what's happened since we've last talked, or some things that kind of date back a little bit. But the modification of the permit for the bifurcation of the Bay Area channel, that permit modification was approved in May of 2022. And although at that time we were still investigating using borrow area or disposal area DA 310 and doing a hydraulic dredging project. So as part of that, we developed a new permit application modification to turn into the agencies. And with that permit application, we also developed plans and specs for these new option of placing material at DA 310 and doing the dredging hydraulically. We also received the consent agreement from the Corps of Engineers to place the material at the Corps of Engineers disposal area. It's DA 310. However, they put conditions on that consent agreement, and one of those was that the town would be required to remove 120% of the expected dredge material and take it off island and place the material upland. We pushed back as hard as we could, gave them, I would say, probably 3 or 4 different options to try to get rid of having to do that. We were told no at every step. And they said the only way that the project could move forward was to take this material offsite, which was a problem, as we knew, because there's no direct truck access to the island. All the material would have to be taken offsite via double and triple handling the material via barge and whatnot. So anyway, we also in that permit modification, we're going to apply to allow hydraulic dredging for disposal of 310 because that's not available in the current permit. So the permit modification application has not been deemed complete to date. It pretty much was about 2 weeks ago. The agencies I say kind of, we're very hard on the green card notifications and making sure we got every single green card back from residents that could have been affected by this permit modification. They finally, about 2 weeks ago, said they had the number of green cards back that they needed to move forward when deemed the permit application complete. But because of some recent developments, we told them to put it on hold until we decide the way the project is going to move forward. So right now that permit modification, and I'll go through what that permit modification includes. Just for a little drive down history or road as far as the bidding. So this project outside of South Chinks Creek, which is the Bay Area Canal or Bay Area Channel, the feeder and finger canals, and Mary's and Turtle Creek, was all bid mechanically back in September of 2021. And we received one bid, TDU, for $7.23 million. Moffitt Nickel recommended that we reject the bid, we cancel the contract, and we investigate the option that we were looking at this through the summer, which was the hydraulic with placement at DA 310. So then, as we were getting ready to advertise the disposal area 310, the preparation of disposal area 310, we already had the mechanical dredging. So Moffitt Nickel asked the town if we could go ahead and re-advertise the mechanical dredging project at no additional cost to the town, just to see if somebody's schedule had changed or somebody was interested in doing the project. So we put it out on August 30th, 2022, and we received no bids. Then we went ahead and moved forward with the advertisement of the preparation of DA 310 to accept hydraulic dredge material, which included preparing half of it, building up dikes, putting in a new outfall structure, and then on one half of it and the other half of it, removing the 120% of material, the planned dredge material, which would have been having to remove 60,000 cubic yards of material off island and take it up to Old Georgetown Road to the upland disposal site. Well, for that, we put that out and accepted bids on September 28th, 2022, received 3 bids, R.E. Goodson for $5.544 million, B&J Construction for $5.6 million. However, they didn't provide a bid bond, so it really wasn't a valid bid. And S.J. Hamill provided a cost of $6,781,000. So, as we normally do, after we receive the bids above the budget, we opened negotiations with R.E. Goodson on October 7th, and we were unable to get a price reduction from them. They said there was no room for reducing their price to do the work at DA 310. So we, at that point, had a cost of $5.5 million to prepare DA 310 with an expectation that the hydraulic dredging price would come in at $2 to $2.5 million. So we were looking at an overall project cost of approximately $8 million. However, during the negotiations with R.E. Goodson, we learned that they weren't aware of the mechanical dredging project. So they let us know that the one way they felt like they could reduce the cost of the overall project was to do it the mechanical dredge option. So at that point, we decided to go ahead and re-advertise the bid to all potential contractors in the area. And on November 2nd, we put it back out for bid and received one bid from R.E. Goodson for $5.3 million. We've since had conversations with R.E. Goodson, and we've asked other ways to reduce this price, and they've given us 2 options. This is back to the original mechanical dredging project where the offloading is at Cobia and then at Seaside on the north side of the AIWW. So what they've said is in lieu of using Seaside the way we've designed it, they have an alternative option for putting a trestle up there instead of a rock gabion mat ramp area. They said if they're allowed to do that, they can reduce the price by $150,000. Alternatively, if we can secure a offloading site within Mary's Creek, they said they would be able to reduce the overall price by $400,000 and not use Seaside at all. So there's a couple of options there. We could write into the contract to lock him into that if we can do that. And then what we plan on doing is when, as I said, this latest permit modification is on hold. When we submit the permit modification, we intend on adding a offloading site at Mary's Creek to try to take advantage of that $400,000 discount. As of today, Moffett Nickel provided a letter to the town administrator recommending moving forward and awarding the project to R.E. Goodson. So where we are, and if any of you have questions about the permit modification that is, as I said, it's on hold at this point. Based on the current permit and modification that we have, we can begin the project right away. We have the authorization and the permits to do the project the way we are currently looking at doing it, which is mechanical dredges. So they could the one I guess on the new permit, the one issue that could rear its head is if there has been dramatic shoaling in the feeder or the Bay Area. It's similar to what happened in Jinks Creek previously, is there's a permitted template. And if there's been shoaling, then that causes those slopes of that template to get wider. However, because of the marsh grass and piers and things like that, we don't think that's going to be an issue, even if there has been some shoaling. And we don't believe there's been any dramatic shoaling in there like Jinks Creek. So anyway, the contractor could and would begin mobilization in early December and hopefully starting dredging by mid-December. As a note, Cobia Street will be the primary offloading area for the Bay Area feeder and finger canals. And that's going to happen both season one, which would be this year up until March 31st, and next year from December 1st to March 31st. And then Marys and Turtles would not be done till next year, assuming we'd get that permit modification back. Hopefully the material will be offloaded at somewhere along Mary's Creek. If not, it will be offloaded at Seaside, but Turtle and Mary's would be done in next year, the 23-24 season. So what's in this current permit modification, as I kind of said, is the modification is to modify the dredge footprint to account for slope equilibration, additional shoaling and marsh grass and dock locations. We've had numerous continued conversations with the agencies to try to get clarity so we don't end up into a situation where we did last year, where there was a misunderstanding on what was dredge and what was equilibration, what was affected by the dredging. It also will address the ability to dredge the south side of the feeder canal, which we call Area B. And it's what we dredged to 3 feet last year, and we're going to ask to go to 6 feet to make it even with Jinks Creek. That is on the west side of Jinks Creek, south of the feeder canal. And then again, add a potential offloading site at Mary's Creek to facilitate saving the $400,000 to the project cost. So also what's happened since I've last talked is there was a grant amendment update. We applied for additional funds and additional time on the grant. On June 9th, 2022, we received amendment number 2 to the grant, which extended the grant expiration date until June 30th, 2024. It also increased the value of the overall grant to $9,752,000, which is a split between the state share of $6,500,000 and the town share of $3,250,000. So with all that said, and based on receiving the bids, and if the town approves R.E. Goodson's bid, the projected overall cost is the South Jinks, the engineering, design, and construction management right now is at $1.241 million. South Jinks Creek came in at $1.672 million. I used the $5.15 million because we're fairly confident that at a minimum, if we can't get Mary's Creek as an offloading area, that the agencies will allow us to use a trestle because we won't be affecting any any larger footprint of the bay bottom than what is permitted right now. So we use 5.15 million as a contract value. And we also have the upland disposal at Ike Williamson's property off Old Georgetown Road. So the total expenditure or projected project cost is 8.352 million, which is a state share of 5.568 and a town share of 2.784 million. And just as an asterisk, those costs are based on 50,000 cubic yards. So that number can go up or down depending on the actual quantity that is dredged. And in the recommendation letter, I kind of explain the cost per cubic yard if it goes up or down. So the project schedule, again, the bids were received on the 2nd. The award date, we would move to award tomorrow if the contract is approved by council. The contract we would try to finalize the week of November 14th. Provide the contractor an NTP prior to December 1st because they can't start dredging until December 1st under permit. And then the construction window would be season 1 would be the Bay Area feeder and finger canals, which would be December 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. And then season 2, they would do October 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 for Turtles and Marys, and December 1st again to March 31st, 2024 for other dredging, which is anything left over from season 1 for the Bay Area feeder and finger canals. So, in speaking with the contractor again, what their planned order of work would be is they would start at Cobia Street in the feeder canals and work their way towards South Jinks Creek. And then once they reach South Jinks Creek, they would either go back or turn around and do work on the rest of feeder and the finger canals, or go to the Bay Area and bifurcation, depending on what equipment they had on site and surveys. So the amount of material they have to kind of coordinate a clean place to end the season on. And then they would return the second season on October 1st when they could do Mary's and Turtle starting early to give them an extra 2 months to do that work. And then on December 1st, they could go back to finish off any area on the Bay Area feeder and fingers that they didn't complete. That's it. Any questions?
Yes, Sam,
Yes.
can you explain what you mean by the trestle?
It's basically just a supported, like a pile supported platform, like a railroad trestle, or it'll be a pile supported platform that will go out over the water to allow them to bring the barge up to and pull the trucks back up to and offload the barges into the trucks.
So
Right
the
now
trestle is built in the water?
Yeah, out from land, out into the water. So right now, what is designed is an area that is built out into the water using gabion mats or gabion boxes. So its mats are filled with rock, and so that's lined both sides and squared off, and then filled with rock in between to allow the trucks to get out into the water. So where we feel confident that it won't be a problem right now, you're completely covering the bay floor with rock in the permitted area. We're here with the trestle. It's just going to be impacting at localized points where the pilings are driven. And then a platform will be placed on top of that.
Okay. The original mechanical dredging bid was for 7.2, and now we're down at 5.1 plus disposal costs.
Correct.
How with the same process, how did we go from 7.2 to 5.1?
I think it's finding the interest and somebody that is somewhat hungry for work, maybe. And it's finding the right person. We did not, we reached out to everybody we knew and could think of to do this work. We came across this contractor because when we were researching contractors to do the upland disposal, the DA 310. That's how we reached out to these, because they had bid projects in the past to do the Corps of Engineers Eagle Island rehabilitation. So in conversation, they had done work exactly almost to the T of this type of work, except not on a tidal area, but in a pond. I mean, in a pond in Fayetteville, North Carolina. But the exact same process. They were comfortable with it, and it just became, where they were, and yeah. So they said they felt like they could do it for less than the DA 310, and so that's when we put it back out to bid. They did. They're out of Darlington, South Carolina, and they did, like I said, a project very similar to this of 38,000 cubic yards in Fayetteville. But again, it wasn't tidal; it was in a pond. But same system, loading scows, hauling to an offloading site, loading trucks with I'll call it a fine or silty wet material into trucks and hauled it to upland disposal.
So the material loaded onto the trucks is going to be wet.
Yes.
So as the trucks pass through, the water's draining off the truck.
No. They'll have seals in the beds, I've actually discussed this directly with them. They put a rubber seal in the bed of the trucks, and they double chain the trucks beds so there's no incidents. And what I was told is they only load the trucks to about 2/3 capacity, just so if there is any sudden stops or things like that there's no spillage of the truck over the top of the bed as well.
Okay.
Now, will I stand here today and say that you won't have, a drip of mud here and there? You will, but they're to have water trucks and street cleaners to make sure the streets stay clean.
Okay, that's better than what I was envisioning.
No, I mean, they wouldn't be allowed to transport if they were just draining the water off as they were transporting.
The price of this has gone up extremely since the beginning. Do you recall what the initial estimates were when we began this project? You weren't here then, but
I think it was around, for the total project, around $5.5 million.
That's right.
and now we're up to
8.3, I believe, is what I
That's right.
had there.
So back then we were talking about roughly $5,000. We have 334 affected properties, and we're talking about roughly $5,000. I'm doing some math in my head, and that's very hard to do right now. And that's up to, it's over $8,000 now, roughly.
Yeah, if for the town's share, correct. It's probably was close to 5,500, and now it's 8,300.
83. Yeah. 83.35 and 50 cents or so, approximately.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's a fairly significant jump in terms of what people were expecting. And your recommendation is that we approve it, and that discussion takes place at a different part of this meeting. Are you going to still be here when we go through that process in case
Yes.
any questions come up?
Yes.
Okay. One question in the beginning, there was a concern with the ability of the mechanical dredging and the barges to be functioning full time because of the tides. Is that still still going to have an impact on this process?
It will have less of an impact because they're using cobia as an offloading site. A lot of that was because the contractor before TDUR was planning on taking all the material from Bay Area, feeder and fingers through North Jinx to Pecan at Seaside.
Yeah.
And because of some areas within North Jinx, they would have had to tow the scows through there at high tide. That's the only option.
So going
So-
back to what you said earlier, and I didn't understand it completely then. The idea is to move the dredgers and barge up to Cobia and start dredging there. So then they've cleared an area for them to dredge and operate as
Right.
they
So,
go. Is that
so
correct?
they can tow all their equipment in at high tide,
High tide.
sit at cobia,
Yeah.
create water as they're going out, and always be able to tow back to cobia. And once they open up to South Jinx, they'll have an access from all of Bay Area to cobia. And likewise, if they turn around and go from cobia towards the other portion of the feeder or the fingers, they'll always have water behind them to get back to cobia.
So that
So-
minimizes the impact of the
Correct.
tide once they get in there.
Correct.
Okay.
So the material from the back bay is also going to go off Cobia.
Yes, from Bay Area, it will also go off at cobia.
And so there will be no requirement to stage that dredge material in an interim position. They'll go straight from the dredging into the trucks, and the
From-
trucks take it straight off the island.
Correct. Well, you say straight from it'll go from the dredging into a barge. They'll have probably
Okay.
another machine that'll offload the barge into the trucks.
Into the trucks, and then the trucks carried away.
Correct.
So
There will be no staging of material.
that was one of the concerns early on, that we would have several
Piles
thousand
of-
cubic yards of dredge material sitting there, having to drain for a while.
Captain Phillips, you got a question? I've seen you moving.
I think Mr. Corbett went down the road I was going to.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I just have one question. Harvey Goods, what kind of research or background do you get into to make sure this is the company to work best for us? That we won't have any trouble with them going down the road?
Well, that's a good question, and we did. Had an initial kind of interview with them. I'll call it more than anything, Mike. That just to find out what they'd done. But they have a North Carolina license. They were able to provide a bid bond, and they'll be able to provide 100% performance and payment guarantee. So, with any contractor, I can't guarantee it, but I just have not at this point, because this has all happened so quickly. I haven't had the time to call Fayetteville and try to find out how that project went. But he then again did explain to me that he did a very similar project, because I did question that. I wanted to understand what they knew and if they knew what they were getting into.
Call Fayetteville. Find out.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. We will. And
Okay. Thank
like
you.
I said, but they'll they were able to provide a bid bond, and in order to give them a contract, they have to provide a performance and payment guarantee, 100%.
Could you explain what a bid bond is in this, for those of us who are not in the contracting business?
So really, a bid bond, it makes your price really, how do you call it, valid. Because if anybody can go and put in a price, but they're backing it up with a bid bond. So in this case, we require a 5% guarantee. So if their bid was $5 million, then they had to put a bid bond in for $250,000, saying that if we accepted their bid based on the contract documents we provided, then they had to enter a contract with us if we so desired, and provide 100% performance and payment bonds, or else they would have to forfeit their bid bond, and which would allow the town to collect $250,000, or the value of the bid bond. So it just puts validity to a bid.
Anyone else got any questions?
moment.
If nobody else
No,
got any
I don't have any
questions,
more
what's,
at this time.
what's the pleasure of council in regards to moving this? Is this something you want to move into, or is we want to wait? What's the pleasure of council?
So we're supposed to have a discussion now, whether we accept the bid here or not?
It's like-
We,
We're supposed to wait till old business.
I believe that's old business, or, yeah, old business.
yeah, that's when we,
You have anything else for Sam?
Not right now.
not until we get into discussion of the
All
bid.
right.
Okay.
You don't, then you good to go.
Thank-
Thanks, sir. Sit down until we get to it. Thank you. Next up is our public comment on agenda items only. If anyone would like to speak on agenda items, please come to the mic, state your name and address. And I think everyone pretty much knows the drill, the 3-minute deal, please.
Rich Serrato, 517 Twisted Oak Lane. I'm a little confused. When we applied for the grant I believe is 6.5 million, and the state was going to pay 2/3 of that, and the town pays 1/3. But when I just looked at the data that Mr. Morrison put up, it seemed as though that the total cost is 8 million, and the state is paying 5 million. If I remember that correctly. What I'm trying to determine is, what is the cost per plat? Does anybody know the cost per plat based on these numbers? John, and
The cost per plat for the effect that, well, we're not supposed to go in a conversation here. Sorry.
no. What is,
Yeah.
I'm asking you, what is the cost per plat for an
During-
impacted owner?
During public comments, we do not have a give and take in conversation.
I'm just asking a question.
It's give and take.
In other words, you're not going to answer the question.
When they talked about it a while
When we
ago, they
talked
said
around-
basically $8,350. I think is what they said it was basically looking at. That's what was just discussed.
Yeah,
I know
I
you can't hear good, but that's what was discussed. a while ago.
No, I understand that, but what is the cost per plat? That's a basic question. Why isn't that being discussed?
That was it. $8,350 per plat was what they just discussed. That was what
Per
the numbers they
affected
just
property
come-
owner.
Per property owner. What, 334? I think is what the number was.
Yeah.
Well, John mentioned that it was $5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
The estimated
And a new
cost.
one was looking at about 8 something. Charlie, please don't make sounds. Please be respectful.
Well,
83.
you're not
Sir,
following the rules,
sir,
Mr.
that's,
Mayor.
that's fine, sir, but we're talking. I know he can't hear. I'm just explaining that to him. We can be respectful to each other for 5 minutes, sir. 8,000 and something was the answer that he gave a while ago. And that's where we're at right now with it. That's
All
what
right.
it's looking like.
All right, so we have 334 impacted owners, and you divide the 334 into 8,000, or 8
No,
million.
into the amount that the town would owe. Because the state pays the other part. We wouldn't, the homeowners wouldn't be paying for that.
Why can't you just tell us what the cost per plat is based on the numbers?
He just did.
That's
Well,
what
we
I was
just did.
saying. $8,300 and some odd dollars was what it looks like it comes out at right now if the numbers stay correct.
8,300 per plat.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Next.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I wasn't being disrespectful. I was reminding you we have rules
I
about back and
understand
forth.
that, sir. But I also understand every time he comes up to speak, you go, and I'm tired of that. We're not going to do that. We're going to be respectful. We are
Because
up
he's
here.
a joke.
Sir, listen, that is an opinion, and some people could say that about you, but I take up for you. We are to be respectful to these citizens. They are who we answer to. If we set a bad example for them, then how can we expect them to act? Like I said, I am in control of this meeting, and we're going to be respectful. That's the way it's going to be. If there's a problem, we can talk about it after it's over. It's no problem. Moving on. Who's next? Anyone else got any public comment? Yes. Is it something in regards to the agenda?
It would be about the proposed developments in Sea Trail. We can't talk about that or not?
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda. You can do it at the end when we have the second public come out. You'll be right there. Anyone else? All right. If not, we're moving on to the consent agenda. October the 3rd, 2022, first regular meeting minutes. October the 25th, 2022, special meeting minutes. Building Inspection Department, September 2022 report. Planning Department, September 2022 report. Finance Department September 2022 report, the Public Works Department September 2022 report, Fire Department September 2022 report, or the Police Department September 2022 report. Does any member of council have any questions in regards to any of the minutes or of any of the reports? If so, go ahead, Mr. John.
Actually, I had a question for Kerry, and he's not
He's on
here.
vacation.
Okay, the question was, maybe you can get it later, is he said that they had meetings and discussions on safe-built decks for the community. And so the question is, what does that mean, and how does it impact the residents in the community who have elevated decks? Thank you.
I'll get you the answer.
Thank you.
Any other member of council have any questions?
No, sir.
None.
Everybody good? Charlie good? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion we accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on next, Town Administrator report. Ms. England, you had the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things for you tonight. Regarding Hurricane Ian and the bundle and bag requirement that had been lifted, that has now been reinstated. If you are a non-resident property owner that have been unable to clear your lot, if you will please call Vicki in the Public Works Department. We have a list that we are adding to, and those people, we will go back and pick that debris up, not bundled and bagged. But everyone else is back to the requirement.
I have a question. There's a lot of debris that's out there that is not lawn debris and vegetation debris, chairs and broken fencing and construction material and stuff. Can that be picked up too?
Yes, the Public Works Department is working on picking that stuff up now.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
The next couple of weeks, workers will begin installing the security fencing for the emergency east end access that we were able to secure with the agreement with Lot 1 owner. And the Public Works Department staff will begin working on the emergency access at the gazebo parking lot, installing the Hatteras ramp. Got any questions about those?
I came with questions tonight. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Could you explain on that emergency access on the east end, who can use it, who cannot use it?
The emergency east end access is for emergency responders and town staff only.
Okay. So
And it'll be fenced on both sides of the 12-foot easement with an electronic gate on each end.
okay. So visitors, tourists, beachgoers cannot use that.
They will have no access to it.
Okay.
There'll be signage to inform them of that.
Yes. And there'll be no way to get in from either end.
Thank you.
Moving on, let's see where I'm at. The request for qualifications from engineers are due back November the 16th. This is for the engineering and design of the 40th Street Shoreline Protection Project that was approved by North Carolina Division of Coastal Management Resilient Coastal Communities Program. The town was awarded $49,865 for the engineering and design for this project. Any questions on that? Second living shoreline in the town park will be installed by Public Works Department soon. Mr. Bayard, you requested that I receive an estimate on the cost of installing a street light from North Carolina Department of Transportation. I have received those. There are two estimates. The estimates are between $318,000 and $341,000, depending on if metal or wooden poles are used.
Those are traffic lights.
Those are traffic lights.
Okay. And we would have to pay for that if we
want it done now.
want it done now. Okay.
During the November 1st meeting of the Local Government Commission, the town was approved to proceed with the installment financing for the purchase of the Majestic Oak property. And the town was notified late last week that we have been awarded the North Carolina Division of Coastal Management Public Access Grant in the amount of $250,000. That is also for the Majestic Oak purchase. And that's all I have.
Any member of council got any questions for Ms. Anglin?
Nope.
No.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. All right, thank you, Ms. Anglin. Moving on to the planning board UDO rewrite activity, Chad. You have anything for us in regards to this tonight, sir?
Yeah, briefly. Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor, Board. Wanted to give you a heads up. We're in November. We started this process in January, February, so we're almost a year in. Soon, I've been in communication with Wes McLeod. Our plan is to, by the end of the year, as we get through each new article, to start providing you drafts, not copies of that, but what the planning board has looked at, not the final copy of what planning board has looked at, but kind of give you an idea of what they are reviewing. Also with that will be the notes and draft of the audit of what they reviewed in the old UDO and their comments on that as well, and how that's going to look like when you lay it next to each other of the new UDO and where this material came from the old one, if that makes any kind of sense. Because currently, right now, we are through Articles 1 and 2 and in the middle of 3. We hope to get through Article 3 by February. So that one's becoming the first big one that we've gone through, and that brings into our use tables, accessory uses, stuff like that, zoning districts, and stuff like that. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have all that material to you through articles that we've already been through. So at least by minimum, you'll get the new Articles 1 and 2, what you can start kind of reviewing. So this way, when we get potentially a year from now, you won't get this big, thick book of new UDO material that you have never seen before. Any questions?
Will you be highlighting what's changed?
Wes will have a strike through and red copy for y'all, so you will see new material, what is struck through, underline red, what is new material, black,
Great.
what's existing, what's carrying over.
That'll be helpful.
And making myself available to meet with y'all individually or again 2 by 2 or whatever it takes to help y'all understand it further as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
And the minutes of the planning board meetings are contain their discussion for each section that they are amending in any way at all, and the reasons why they are doing it.
Great.
And those are online as well, so you could always go and read those.
Anyone else got any questions for Chad? Go ahead.
We're supposed to read them and then do what with them? Wait for a year and decide whether we like them or not?
this would be where when you get it in a full bounded 3-ring binder in a year, this will potentially all not be new material to you. So I'm giving it to you in articles. So 1 and 2, there'll be 6 total articles. So you'll be able to kind of read through it at your leisure. And then when we get to a year from now, we will go through it again when that document is completely in front of you. Also, about a year from now, between August and October of next year, where there is potentially an ad hoc meeting scheduled to be between this board and the planning board to talk about this document with Wes and myself as well. So we're putting things into place to help you move forward. That way, when you get this document, the new one, again, you won't be blindsided by it. So I'm trying to help you along as much as possible, because it can be daunting, it can be intimidating, it can be a lot. My world, I'm in it every day, so I know it pretty well. But I want to make it as easier for you gentlemen as I possibly can.
Would you then recommend that we do sit down with you 2 by 2 or one individually as we get pieces of this document and sort of ask questions at that time, try to understand at that time?
I would
try
say
to put
so.
it together piece by piece instead of the whole book at once.
Yeah, I would say so. If that's what you would like to do, I'll make myself available to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Moving on next to our old business. Any of the staff that's here that, if you don't have anything coming up, you're welcome to go home. I think everybody's pretty much still here. So. All right, mechanical dredging project. Mr. Sam Morrison, if you'd like to come up for the consideration of awarding the contract. All right. What is the pleasure in regards to the things that you heard from Mr. Morrison? What is the pleasure of council, or what discussion would y'all like to have?
I think Councilman Corbett said when we went through the presentation, the history is that we started at 5.5 thousand per plat was our expectation, and now we're at 8.3 per plat, which is a significant change. But I think it's important to understand, not just for the council, but for everyone that has to make the payment, they should understand how we got here. The dredging project started 7 years ago, I think. Six or 7 years ago.
Wasn't it?
12, yeah, more like
12 or 13, we
12 or
councils were
13.
starting to talk about it.
The original council started in 2012.
Okay, so this has been dragging on and on and on, and it's important to understand, I think, why. We had a small group of people, I'll say, that were fighting against dredging throughout the whole process, and it took a form of writing letters to the various agencies that have to provide the permits, made them concerned about what we're doing and why, and they were concerned about lawsuits. That certainly wasn't outside the realm of possibilities. They actually made it clear that they were concerned about that type of thing.
The agencies.
The agencies. And it caused many, many delays in us proceeding with the various Moffitt and Nichols people that were involved in the project. You had some changes along the way as well, which somewhat added to the problems that we're facing. But as time went on, costs went up. We had to change the scope of the project. The project originally started with a full dredge of North Jinks Creek, South Jinks Creek, feeder canal, the fish canals, and the back bay. And there were many reasons why that was changed, but it was changed because of the objections from, once again, I'll say a small group of people. And I'll note, from my understanding, that the people objecting were not people that had to pay for the dredging. They were people that were not waterfront property owners, so they didn't really have a what I'll say skin in the game, so to speak, but they represented significant hurdles that kept on adding cost to the project. The other factor here was the Army Corps of Engineers, where they made a change to their requirements as far as us using spoil islands. So it changed the whole way of that we had to approach how we'd accomplish dredging. Meanwhile, the people that are living on the canals, that have purchased properties there because they wanted to use the water, they wanted to be able to use their boats, their jet skis, to go out fishing, and they were year by year by year that this dragged on, and I've seen it myself for the period of time that I've lived here, where you could not get out of the feeder canal at, I'd say, 3 hours either side of high tide. there were people getting stuck there all the time, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. We finally agreed that we would do South Jinks Creek. South Jinks Creek was the only beach compatible material that we had, so it was an opportunity for us to use that material in a positive way, and to have a dredging process that we could use pretty straightforward. Well, that was fought. It was fought and fought. There were many reasons given why we should not allow it. There were letters written to the regulators. There were all sorts of stops put in place. That's how we've gotten to the point where we are years later. I might also like to note the frustration that I feel, I think that everyone feels, that if you look at how dredging projects go throughout the rest of the North Carolina coastal communities, right next door to us, they put in a permit application, and 6 months later, they're ready dredging. It's taken us 6 years, 7 years or more. And I just think it's important for the people that I hope listen and try and understand why we're trying to deal with a project that has gone from 5,500 to 8.3, how we got here. And I think it's really criminal the way that this project has been stopped. There's been roadblocks put up at every step of the way. There's been letters written to the local paper complaining about the way that the council has been handling this. And I just think that people need to understand that this is not a problem with the council and how the council approached the project. It's been a problem with people making comments and making problems that really shouldn't have stopped the project, as far as I'm concerned. And I just wanted to voice my opinion here. I think it's important that the people understand how we got here. That's my comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Spoke.
I'd like to echo Mr. Borman's comments there. He and I were brought on the council at a similar time, and one of the hot topics then was dredging, and we were both pro-dredging. It is disheartening to me that here we sit almost 3 years later, and this still has not moved forward. One of the things is that there are a lot of people that complain about the dredging costs and how they're currently rising, and I have no doubt we'll see these emails and such circulating after this recent update. But the reason that the costs are increasing are because these individuals are the ones who've caused the delays by writing the agencies to drag this out so long. From my perspective, if I were an affected property owner, I wanted this done years ago. Even with the increase, it's a small price to pay. I believe I've heard from my neighbors that there was an opportunity to dredge a little swash next to where I live, and it was going to cost $20,000, and the homeowners did not pony up the money. It's now filled in, and there's vegetation there, so it can never be dredged again. And their home values, had it been dredged, probably would be 20 to 25% higher. So from where I stand, and I have all along, it is time to move forward with the dredging. I'm sorry that the costs have increased the way they are. The longer we delay, they're only going to get higher, especially considering this is the state of our general economy. So from my stance, I say we move forward with this with all haste. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nair?
I agree with both Tom and Jamie. This is not the only project that's been held up by the same small group of people. They claim that they're doing it because of the environment, but really what they were doing was trying to stop development. They fought the high-rise bridge for years, added the cost to the state of, was it $500,000 or more? I don't know, does anybody remember?
A lot more than that.
A lot more than that.
Yeah.
Just recently, with the financing of the Majestic Oak property, people wrote They told lies, didn't state all the facts, and that's costing the taxpayers, I forget how much more in interest. You remember, Lisa?
115,000.
115,000. And this has gone on and on just to stop development. And yes, here we are being developed. Who knows what it's going to be like here in 5 years, but a lot of money could have been saved over the years if, never mind, I'm done.
All right. Mr. Corbett, go ahead.
When I saw these increased prices, we knew the prices were going to go up for plat, affecting the people. And I've talked to many of the people, and I know there are a good number of them that are not going to be happy with the increased price. But as has been pointed out, price is only going to continue to go up if we don't make a decision soon. I thought going from 5,500 to 8,300 would be something that we might want to talk about quite a bit. But then the other option, if we do any type of delay, the dredging won't start December. It won't get done on this 2-year project. It won't get done before the state grant deadline comes through. And possibly it won't get done at all. And there's a lot of valid reasons that have been raised in the past of why it needs to be done. Every one of the objections that were presented to the agencies got explained, argued against, justified, and finally the agencies accepted that those objections were not valid and didn't have the standing. So at this point, I say let's move on with the project.
Councilman Hargraves, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to agree with what's been said. I think Jamie said it well, and John just said it again, that the big worry, just any delay in this thing is just going to bring the price up as far as our citizens are concerned. It's nothing that, we all want to see it below 8,000, whatever. But if we delay any more, it is just going to go up more. So I think we've got to bite the bullet. We've got to get into this. We've got to get it done, and we got to move forward from there. This town has been held up for so many projects based on input from a minority of citizens who complain about a lot of things we do. And the state has to listen to those people, and they get concerns when they get these letters all the time. And so they slow it down for us, and it always costs more money. And I think we got to move forward here, and we've got to try to rectify this situation so that next time we go into projects, we're not delayed, where it just costs more money for our taxpayers all the time. So with Jamie and John, we've got to move forward.
All right, it seems to be a consensus among the councilmen, so let's put it out to it.
I'm okay with that. Yep.
So would anyone like to put a motion in regards to this so we can get this going? Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we award the contract for the mechanical dredging project as discussed throughout this evening.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Or wait a
Aye.
minute, any discussion other than what's already been discussed? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's no opposed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks,
sir.
Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Next up, the UDO, which is tabled correctly.
Yes.
So do we need to do anything in regards to this? Just go ahead and skip over it. All right. Moving on. Number 3, the resolution for establishing an acquisition fund. Logistics Oaks, Ms. Nichols.
So basically, all this is that a timing issue. So in our contract, we weren't sure when the grant money was going to come in or what the timeline would look like for this purchase. So the bank requested that we have an acquisition fund for the money to come into and then go out as we close. But we need a resolution to be able to open the acquisition fund with the signers listed on the copy in front of you.
The way this is wrote up on this recommendation, is this for 2 motions and seconds or just the one?
I think
Because it says approve the resolution of town, which I thought we had already done that, and then approving the opening of the thing. So do we need 2 motions, 2 separate motions, or
it's
just
the
the one?
resolution to open the
Okay,
account.
so just the one. Okay. Any member of council have any questions?
I'd just like to make a statement if I could.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So with the acquisition of Majestic Oaks property, to tie this in with the dredging, again, there was a delay that was caused. Similarly, the taxpayers will be paying more for interest now because of what I feel are unvalidated concerns by some of the same citizens that have stopped, as Charlie mentioned, the bridge and the dredging project and many other things throughout town. So I'd just like to make that point out that, again, the taxpayers are going to have a greater expense, much to my dismay, because somehow or another, a few individuals can completely stop the works of government. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? What's the pleasure of council in regards to approving the opening of an acquisition fund and establishing the signers for the account?
I have a motion.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
I move we approve the resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Sunset Beach, North Carolina, approving the opening of an acquisition fund and establishing the signers for the account.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks.
Moving up on next, U.S. Cellular request, Dustin Graham, our Public Works Director.
Mike attended the council meeting on July the 11th. Council meeting, he requested about the cell phone tower location. The location is in front of the water tower. That's as you're going up the bridge. It's on the left, in front of it. You see that he's sent several pictures of what it would look like with the cell tower, and throughout the town, he took several pictures of what it would also be obscured with trees and vegetation, or what it would look like also from different points. It's approximately about 180 foot tall, about the same, maybe just a little bit higher than what the water tower is.
I was going to ask, is it higher than because it looks from the renderings, it looks like it's higher than the water tower.
About 180 foot, possibly.
So it needs to be that high, I presume.
Yes. He's got to get above the cell, because there's already receivers, cell phones. Receivers already on the water tower, so he's trying to get above him so he won't be calling a shadow.
So does this tower affect the other cell companies or companies that have cell apparatus up there?
He's advised that no, they shouldn't. Should not affect it.
So if we don't have U.S. Cellular, we should still be able to get our cell phones to work around here.
Yes, yes.
Dustin, do you see any negatives at all for the town of Sunset Beach on this thing? Any negatives at all? It's on our land, right?
Yeah,
it's on town land.
It is.
The water tower.
Yeah, it's actually it's outside the white fence. If you go, it's part of the where you turn into the bridge grill. Mm-hmm. It's the back corner. It's back there where it's the metal buildings, what they call a pig valve for the sewer. It's in that location. That's where it'll be placed at.
And there's no problems for us in any way. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Are we leasing the land to them?
Yes.
How much?
$1,000 a month.
Yeah,
and Grady has the lease agreement.
Okay.
And we won't do anything until he approves it.
For how long?
5 years.
Yeah.
That can be renewed at that point.
That's a good idea.
Or terminated at that point.
Yeah.
Does this have any impact on your DPW storage area, work areas, buildings, or anything?
No.
Is there any liability the town faces with this?
No, sir.
Actually, this is in red. This is
It
where it'll
comes
be.
down and crashes into something.
Where it'll be placed at. This is not in. I've done this before the meeting. This is about where it'll be placed at. So if you're going up the bridge, it'll be on the left, right here in this corner.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
the bridge grill. This area right here.
Okay.
So these mono towers, when they were discussing them at various times,
Mm-hmm.
they're built to collapse down, not fall over.
I don't know.
I mean, that's
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what
Yes.
they said.
Yes, they collapse on
Yeah.
themselves.
How are they
Yes.
doing 150-mile-an-hour winds?
It has a very big footprint.
Off the
that
cliff edges.
They dig out to cement down, so it's a very big piece of concrete they secure it to.
Is there a wind velocity that these things will stand for? Did you know anything? Did they told you anything like that?
No,
A hurricane of 100 and whatever miles an hour? it
no, he
won't?
didn't. He didn't say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
If it gets up that high,
Yeah,
none
none of us are going to be here anyway.
Possibility.
I just point out in making the presentation,
Mhm.
you know, if he had taken any pictures from the island, you would see that the island has a very unobstructed, very clear view of both the water tower and this tower. So, you know,
Okay.
taking all those pictures hidden by trees, making it look like nobody sees it,
Mhm.
is not going to be exactly like that. A lot of people will see it. But
All right, Lisa.
And what you're doing here is approving the placement and the
Yeah.
lease agreement. This still has to go through the Board of Adjustment
Yeah.
as a special use permit.
oh, okay,
Oh,
good.
The
good.
lease agreement has to be approved by Grady for it.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
So the Board of Adjustment will.
Yeah, so they'll go through the Board of Adjustment
All
and
right.
everything before we put anything
Okay.
in the ground.
Mhm.
So we still need a motion for this right now.
Mhm.
As far as what's the pleasure of the council, does anyone have a motion in regards?
I'll make a motion to approve the request to place the monopole on town property and authorize staff to execute the lease agreement once approved by Attorney Richardson.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Justin.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Can
Well,
I ask a
Yes, sir.
question?
Go ahead.
While we're talking about towers, and there's still controversy over the tower between the Colony and the Regency. Is there any chance we could put this one in, that one in here too?
No.
This will be a
I don't
separate,
think so.
it'll be a
I don't think so.
separate thing.
Make
Don't think it's
everything
actually come up
easier.
for approval yet. All right. Moving on now to our ERC member appointments. Ms. Anglin, you have the floor on this one.
Thank you, Mayor. John Farrell and Don Eggert's terms on the ERC is expiring this month. Both are interested in reappointment. The positions were advertised in the October 20th and 27th editions of the Brunswick Beacon, as well as on the website, and we received no applications. I'm requesting the council to reappoint Mr. Farrell and Mr. Eggert with a term expiration of November 25, or to direct me and Katie to re-advertise and try again.
All right. What's the pleasure of council in regards to this matter?
I have a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
I move that we reappoint Mr. Farrell and Mr. Egert with term expiration of November 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving up on next to the revised fee schedules. All member of councils have this. You have any questions?
I just have one question. It's really a clarification. It's for Lisa. It's for a parking attendant. It's for the lot under the bridge by the firehouse. And the reason for that is?
That's the agreement with North Carolina Department of Transportation for us to be able to use that under the bridge area as parking.
And we have to use a staff person to do
We
it?
have to use a staff person.
Any other members of council got any questions?
They worry about their footings of the bridge and cars running into those footings of the bridge. They want to protect it.
No more members of council got?
This,
Lee?
this includes The fee schedule for the cones and barricades setup breakdown by town staff.
Yes.
And that's for activities in the park.
Yes, those two activities have always been performed by town staff, but as the park becomes more popular and the barricades and cones are going up more frequently, Dustin felt like we needed to charge a fee.
In regards to that, how many people usually go out to put those cones up? How many of our employees are out doing this?
1 to 2.
1 to 2, and that's a setup and then another day to take down. How many hours does that consist of? So if you got 2 at 2 hours, that's 4 hours, and the fee's only $30. So basically $7.50 an hour is all we paying these employees to do this. Other than their pay that they're getting, but is that fee?
It
I
can
don't
be
know what
higher.
kind of work y'all do, but I think that's a little bit cheap.
Where did
We-
this number come?
Matt and I actually came up with this number, and we estimated on half an hour for setup and a half hour for breakdown. So it's basically an hour is what we were looking at. But Dustin certainly knows better than I, and it can definitely be increased if it needs to be.
I mean, I would think that they ought to consider increasing it a little bit. I mean, that's awful cheap.
Well, my view on that is one of the things is there's a safety measure and just traffic control and organization that goes into it. It's part of the interest of the town that these things run smoothly. And it's also part of the town providing a service or supporting an activity within the community. So, I think it makes a point that they have to pay for it, but we really don't go through and try to itemize every service that DPW does into the actual hourly costs that they get paid. So,
And I would think some of that would be absorbed by the just event fees in general. You know, you're going to have staff have to do some things when there's an event at the park, and everybody who has an event pays a fee.
yeah, the large events pay $250.
The only thing, there were a lot of complaints about whatever activity was in the park, that the people were not paying for this. And I think that's part of it. We charge a fee because it was unfair that the taxpayers pay for a money-making event in the park. I'm fine with the number.
All right, what's the pleasure, council, in regards to the fee changes? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the fee changes as written here.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to new business, consideration of fire-related ordinance amendments. Chief Childers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. In front of you, you have a general housekeeping redirection of the current ordinances. So nothing spectacular, no major changes to this, just basically cleans it up, allows us to enforce it a little bit better. Does anyone have any questions?
You covering all three of them with that?
All three of them with that general statement. As you can see on the beach ordinance, we've added the term sky lantern. That's something that we've been hit with over the past few years. Sky lanterns, are they allowed? Are they not? I don't recommend this. A sky lantern, a Chinese sky lantern. Are you familiar?
Put a candle inside.
Candle
It's like a
lifts
little
up in
hot
the
air
wind.
balloon that burns out shortly. It's very hazardous on the beach.
Very hazardous. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I get that question a lot during the summer, so that's something I definitely wanted to add in here to the beach portion of that.
I have a question on
Yes, sir.
that one. Number one, just for clarity, that affects the beach strand. What do we call in the beach strand?
The beach strand, basically all the town limits and the ETJ on the beach.
Okay. The dunes are not the strand?
Not in the dunes. Not in the dunes.
So they could.
If
they're not supposed to be in the dunes.
If they're
number
in the
one.
dunes with a bonfire, they're going to be breaking the law anyway, being in the dunes.
Yeah. Okay, that's clear. The let me see here. Concerning 9240, burning of brush within town limits and that.
Mhm.
Part of the concern is, first off, does this regulation apply to the ETJ? Do our ordinances control?
The beach ordinance, yes. The other ordinance with the burning, no. No, nothing, not in the ETJ.
So for the sanctuary, we had no control over the burning that took place
Not
there.
in the sanctuary, that's correct.
Okay. However, if there's burning in Pelican Reserve, then
Yes.
that needs to have permits.
Yes, that would have to have approval through me and meet the qualifications set for it in 9240.
And so for construction, controlled setting, not less than 50 feet from any structure or vehicle, active water and pressure,
Yes, attended
and somebody present at all time to supervise that 24 hours a day,
24
because
hours a
the
day.
fires don't start burning.
Mhm.
And the smoke, that's right in the middle of the sea trail.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So specifically with D, any objectionable smoke that could impact surrounding residents in the sole judgment of a fire official or town staff shall be caused to require immediate extinguishment of the fire.
Chief Childers.
So any developer has to come to you,
Yes.
to get this permit
Yes.
to clear the land and
Mhm.
burn.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you watch over this.
Yes.
The big problem we've just had in the other side of Georgetown Road there, and you know it, they were burning there, smoke was coming across the road into Cape Side, into Sea Trail. A lot of complaints from people. People had trouble breathing. People had eye difficulties. And my thing was, it's not in Sunset Beach.
Correct.
And if it wasn't Sunset Beach, we'd be all over you. That's for sure.
100%.
And to control it
Mhm.
and to make sure it didn't happen.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, Chief, you and the previous chief rode over there,
Mhm.
and who issued them permit to burn? The state fire marshal? Or?
North Carolina Forestry is the permit. So even if they did it within the town limits, they'd have to do it through the North Carolina Forestry as well. So in those particular fires, not only did they have the permit, but they were site visited by North Carolina Forestry and North Carolina Air Quality. So they were covered in doing it within regulations in all points. So
Now, would that be the same thing for our town? They would get those permits too, the same way?
Same thing. That does not supersede North Carolina requirements.
Okay. But you would have also the opportunity to watch over this and to make sure and shut things down if things. Okay.
100%.
Okay.
And this is how it's currently written. So that's nothing new. That's in the current thing. We just put more requirements on them burning within the town.
We've had a lot of questions from citizens.
Yes.
So the only thing a citizen needs to do the first time they object is to call the fire department,
That's it.
call you.
That's it.
Okay, and don't have to write a letter, don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for a decision.
Call me, and if we consider it objectionable, that's when we can ask them to extinguish it.
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
9241 open flames, C, fire pits or fireplaces will be permitted.
Mhm.
So this would then allow people to have fire pits in their backyard and things like that.
Mhm.
Thank you, sir. Just want a clarification.
All right, at least on this, when we get to this, with it being 3 separate ones, do we need 3 separate motions on these, or is all this tied in together?
You can do one motion, just call out the ordinance
All
number
3.
and the name.
Okay. All right, in regards to this, what is the pleasure of council?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 95-10, burning on beach amendment, ordinance 92-40, burning, and ordinance 92-41, open flame amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, moving on now. discussion of key fob security system phase 2. Ms. Nichols.
Okay. So currently at Town Hall and the police department, we have a key fob system. It's for the entrance of multiple hallways and outside doors and the gate over on the parking lot. We had reached out to the fire department and public works and see if there was interest in that, and they absolutely thought it would be a great idea. This is the cost of what that would be. This would cut down on having service calls and trying to get doors rekeyed when employees come or go. Lisa and I can, on our phones, make it so somebody can or cannot get into the building. And the security is high. We can see who has gone through every door at any time.
And we can set limits of when certain people can be in the building at all.
And what doors they can go through. It gives security to the police department as well. I know that they have different requirements and things like that. Only certain employees are allowed over there. And
Are we currently required when somebody leaves to change all the locks?
for the fire department and public works, yes.
Wow.
Or we would have to change a code if they have a code. But we've had some turnover in public works. That's what kind of prompted all of this. So we would have to change all of the locks and things like that down there because people can make copies to keys and that's a costly thing when that happens. But this is a click of a button.
Okay.
And the money for this will come from the fund balance? Fund
Yes.
balance? Okay.
All right, if no more questions, what's the pleasure of council?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we appropriate the funds so town staff can order and schedule the installation of the key fob system costing about $48,500.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up
Thank you, Terry.
is our Fireman Relief Board member, term expiring. Go ahead, Ms. England.
Thank you, Mayor. John Cook, who is also our fire inspector, his term on the Fireman's Relief Fund Board is expiring in January, and we are just asking for the authorization to notify Mr. Cook, advertise the petition, and schedule interviews if we get multiple applications. And if not, we'll be coming back to you next month for you to reappoint Mr. Cook.
Do
if he
we
so
have to do
desires.
an advertising before reappointing?
No, that's just your practice.
It's
Has
a good
been your
practice.
practice.
Yeah.
It's a good practice.
It's a good practice, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the clerk to notify Mr.
Do we
Cook, advertise.
need a motion for this,
Yeah.
or is this just?
Yeah, it's just
Okay,
a
go
motion.
ahead, Jamie. I'm
I'd
sorry.
like to make a motion to authorize the clerk to notify Mr. Cook, advertise the position, and schedule interviews.
Second.
Second. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to NCDOT requests to repeal the municipal speed limits 55 ordinance. Ms. England, this one's you again.
This is just to give everybody a little clarification. When North Carolina Department of Transportation roads are within a municipality and the state decides to do something to their speed limit or signage or anything on their roadways, within the municipality, we have to adopt a concurring ordinance so that there will not be a discrepancy between what the municipality says the speed limit is and what the state says the speed limit is. So a long time ago, years and years and years, for whatever reason, this little strip of Old Georgetown Road was deemed municipal. My thoughts are it's probably when Sandpiper Bay was annexed into the town and Windfall, and that made it that we had to adopt a concurring ordinance for the speed limit to be 55 on Georgetown Road as you were traveling through that little brief area in the municipality. And so now that the state has agreed that the speed limit on Old Georgetown Road needs to be reduced to 45 from Calabash to the Ocean Isle Beach Road, we just need to adopt this to concur.
Do we actually have this ordinance written somewhere in our books?
Yeah, it's in a file cabinet somewhere.
So that's why.
But we don't put
couldn't
it
find
on
I
Unicode.
couldn't find it either. I could not find it.
Right.
So what's the pleasure of council in regards to repealing this ordinance?
I have a motion.
All right, go ahead.
I move that we take action to repeal ordinance 1060699.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on next, our standing committee on offshore wind energy and fisheries. Ms. England.
Actually, Ms. Farrell, John Farrell, would you like to come to the podium and explain your recommendation to me this afternoon with this? He has a little more insight than I do. I could just read it off the page. But.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to read too. This morning in the morning news that comes through all of the different newses, there was a story about the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which is a federal bureau, wanted to create a committee of people to work with them on offshore power and fisheries. And when I looked at it, I thought, wow, Steve Hines has a background in that, and that's right up his alley. They were asking for local representatives from towns, and they just want a great diversity of people to be on this committee of 15 people. So I contacted Steve and said, are you interested? And we talked about it. And he did some soul searching, and he said yes. So he contacted Lisa, and we got it on the agenda. This is a great opportunity for the town of Sunset Beach to put someone on a very visible committee. They will be looking at the offshore project that is being considered for North Carolina, and we'll get insights into and some voice in what's being done in that project, as well as involvement in projects all over the United States, where we can learn best practices and make contacts with people that should be helpful to the town. So it's my recommendation that the council would approve nominating Steve Hines to be on this committee, and hopefully they'll agree with that.
And I concur.
I would also say yes to that by far. As you know, I'm a member of the Shoreline Protection Committee of Brunswick County, and our job is also, I'm on a subcommittee there looking at offshore wind, the future of offshore wind, where locations will be, and so on. And this is more like a federal committee. And so I think it'll be very important, and if we can get a member on that committee, to be great for the future, knowing what's happening, and hopefully influencing a little bit what happens with offshore wind.
So to be clear, we nominate Steve, and then the Bureau will actually make a decision out of all the nominations of who they want these 15 people to be.
Just like the CRC did with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just like to thank you all for your nomination and for my appointment. And I would say that the first meeting I attend on the advisory council will be next week.
Good.
So I look forward to coming up to speed on what the CRC is doing and going forward.
Good deal.
Good. Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Any other members got anything?
Thank you, John.
And John
Do
will be giving us a report of what happens at those meetings, as well as Mr. Hines, hopefully.
Do we need a vote?
Yeah, we need, I guess, a motion.
Yes, you need to make a motion to nominate Steve Hines.
Am I done?
I have a motion. I move that we appoint Steve Hines to the Standing Committee on Offshore Wind Energy and Fisheries.
Nominate.
Nominated.
Nominate.
Yeah, and then they'll make a decision from there. Yeah, we got you.
I'll second.
Got a second?
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, sir. All right, moving on now to our disposition, wait a minute, yeah, dispositions of directives for our November 7th, 2022 meeting. I think you had something, Lisa, that needed to be added.
Yes, at the 9th hour, when I was putting this packet out last week, Todd Rademacher with Riptide Builders called and requested that the text amendment that you all had tabled from the month before, I believe, to appear on this agenda, they requested that it be moved to the December 5th meeting.
Okay.
So I removed that agenda item, and we need to place it on the December 5th agenda.
That's that same UDO thing?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any member of council got anything else that needs to be added?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that Mr. Durr and I should have a report ready for the December 5th meeting. And I'd like to change the title of our group. Instead of paid parking report, from now on, parking management plan. Parking management plan.
Oh, I'm fine.
All right. Anything else? All right. If not, we'll be moving on to the public comments. Does any member of the public like to speak? Would please state your name, address. I think you pretty much know the drill on the three.
Yes. Hi, Richard Dicing. I just a point of information before I start my comments. In the planning board meeting last week, Riptide assured us that there would be no burn in Pelican Reserve. Coastal community on the Jaguars lair gave us no such assurance. My name is Richard Dysinger. I live at 704 Fairway Drive East. My family has owned property in Sunset Beach since 1991. I serve on the Sunset Beach Planning Board. On July 7th, the Planning Board considered and passed two resolutions. The first reclassified the large land parcel within Sea Trails that borders the Convention Center. It then passed a text amendment to Article 6 of the UDO that would allow limited commercial establishment in prescribed MR3 districts. That has been tabled to next week. I thought it was going to be this week's on the agenda today. I was unable to attend the meeting that approved this on the planning board, but I would have voted for them both. On September 20th, the town council approved reclassification in a 3-to-1 vote and tabled the text amendment in terms of Article 6. Text amendment reclassification, what does it mean in plain English? The reclassification will allow a pathway for Riptide to develop the parcel into a hotel, a state-of-the-art driving range, and other amenities that will primarily service visitors, event attendees, should the convention center be revived. They will have little benefit for residents. The text amendment, which was tabled, would allow a very narrow range of businesses, such as restaurants, coffee shops, to be located with the MR3 area of Sea Trail. This would primarily benefit residents. The House Place restaurant within Sea Trail is a perfect example of the kind of establishment that would be allowed. So my point is, right now, this is relatively lopsided. Great for visitors, not so much for residents. I hope the council will address this imbalance. The text amendment that has been tabled is an attempt to create mixed-use development within an MR3 residential-only district. We need to move from the development model of clustered residential, clustered commercial. If you want to do something, get in your car. Mixed-use development is an integrated approach where residential and commercial are co-located so residents can walk, ride their bikes, or drive within their neighborhood to receive commercial services. Given the wave of new homes coming online, 1,000 in Jaguars Lair alone that was just given their approval for the primary plat, mixed-use development offers us an opportunity to manage the land assets so residents do not have to make a left-hand turn on 904 or drive to Calabash for a cup of coffee. Right now, the text amendment is written in such a way that only Sea Trail would be eligible for this kind of development. I would suggest that the text amendment be sent back to the planning board with the instruction to craft an amendment that would allow any developer or development to take advantage of this modification to the MR3 district and the text amendment. I have remarks concerning the reclassification of the convention center, but we'll save those for another day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else, sir? I know you mentioned that. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Steve Pollock. I live in Sea Trail as well. I live on Clubhouse Road. Thank you for
Your
allowing me to
address, sir?
speak. I'm sorry?
Your address.
131 Clubhouse Road. Fortuitous timing after this last gentleman, because I have echo some of his thoughts as well on mixed development. As we all know, I mean, Sea Trail is a significant part of Sunset Beach. And it's an older community. And I've lived here now about 3 years. And it's been very clear to me over that last 3-year period that Sea Trail needs to be upgraded. It's an older community, and it really kind of got stopped in time a bunch of years ago. And it's been declining. It truly has. Now, there have been some improvements made over the last year and a half. And, if you look at the entranceway signs, they don't look like they're 35 years old anymore. They look brand new. Nice look for the community. And that enhances our way of life in Sea Trail as well when the community starts to look a little bit more modern. But currently, we have, pardon the pun, but we have subpar golf courses. They're not anywhere near what many of them are in the communities that surround us, and yet the bones are excellent. I mean, there's a quality there that is just kind of untapped right now. It's just been kind of forgotten, and it's really not going anywhere. But with a hotel that would make it a resort complex. Now, they're obviously they're not going to build a hotel if they don't own the golf courses. They're not going to buy the golf courses if they don't have a hotel. But if you put all that together, now you bring Sea Trail up to really where it could be and should be. And my concern is, like with Jaguars and all these other big developments that are coming in, if we don't do something with Sea Trail, again, which is a significant part of Sunset Beach, Sea Trail is going to be a second-class community, and that's where I live. That doesn't feel all that good to me. All these other communities are going to be modern, they're going to be upgraded, and we're going to be really second class. And that certainly doesn't sit well with me, and I don't think it should sit well with anyone in Sunset Beach. Now, I'm sure that with this new development, with the revenue that'll be realized with the hotel, if the convention center can get up and running as a multi-unit use facility, there's going to be increased tax revenue for the city, for the town here. I would expect that would be the case. That would benefit everybody. Right. So, this gentleman mentioned the fact that, hey, it'd be nice to take your bike and go get a cup of coffee. It really would be. People tell me we go to play golf and I can't even get a cup of coffee before my round. There's nowhere to get any. It never used to be that way, though. From what I understand, this community 10, 15 years ago, much more vibrant Sea Trail was, and it's declined. But there's a way out of that. There's investors that are waiting to invest the money to make it a first-class destination. I think it's good for the locals, and I think it's good for the people that are coming here, and I also think it's great for the town. So I just urge you to look at that and consider that when you're approving this mixed retail. I would love my wife and I to take our bikes and go get a cup of coffee somewhere in town and then go play tennis at the tennis course. That would be wonderful. And that's quality of life for all of us. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't really have anything to say, but
Wait.
Yeah.
You always have something to say.
I'm Bobby Leonard, 108 Discovery Lake Drive. The MR3 mixed use. I am concerned. I thought we had the convention center all squared away, that they could build or do what they wanted with it. So I thought that was all set. Maples Clubhouse is sitting useless. I don't know why they can't buy that
Close to the mic.
and do something with that. As far as commercial throughout our entire community and the entire MR3 community is concerning. I don't want a golf cart rental company down the street. Could there be a dollar store? I don't know. They laugh when they say that, but what if that property was sold off? What could the new people bring in there? I don't know. I did have an opportunity to speak with the president of the HOA at Ocean Ridge. And I said to her something about the MR3 and commercial coming in. And she said, oh, it's against our covenant. Well, I think it would be up to Sunset Beach. If MR3 is approved for commercial, it could go into Jaguar's Lair. So I am all for Riptide building up, better golf courses. Better golf courses will bring the people. But I do think, if I might be wrong, that they can do the convention center now and the driving range and everything they want to do. I haven't seen any movement in that. So I'm a little confused. I'm not for the MR3 retexting or whatever they're going to do so that commercial can be built within our community all over. I ride my bike for coffee, ice cream. I ride it to the beach. So we are in rideable, walkable golf cart areas. And we need to support all of Sunset Beach, which we have restaurants, we have coffee shops, we have pizza shops. We need to support all of Sunset Beach. We are not all of Sunset Beach and Sea Trail. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Douglas Hill. I'm at 415 Sailfish Street, and I lived on the island, my family and I, for about 36 years. And I want to applaud the town council for finally passing this dredging thing. The cost is going to be a little expensive, but it's about time. I've seen over the time all of it's filling in the east end. I've seen boat accidents out there. People don't know it's coming. And the only other thing is, I know I guess the wildlife people came out and put buoy markers, and I think during the storm they've gotten blown out where there are some shallow areas. If maybe we could get them to come back and reinstall those. But I appreciate it, and I do thank you for getting this dredging done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other person like to speak? All right.
Can I ask one question?
Go ahead.
Lisa, in terms of the dredging, at what point do people have to start paying the assessments?
The assessment, what did he say? May of 24, March of 24 would be the end of the second season. So depending on how quickly we move on certifying the preliminary roll, it could be in the end of 24 or the beginning of 25.
Okay. So
And then the resolution that you all adopted, if y'all were the council that adopted it, or undertaking this project, set the assessment up for 3, and I'm going on memory, 3 payments, annual payments, or you could pay it all at one time.
That is
and
correct.
the 3 annual payments had a
3%
interest rate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then just to elaborate, after this initial dredging project is done, the town council will then establish a dredging district and a plan for maintenance dredging to occur every 5, 7, 10 years, whenever it is needed. And the monies for that will be, that fee will be included in your tax bill and will be escrowed until the dredging is needed, and therefore the money will already be there to pay for it.
And that was approved in legislation by the General Assembly in 2014.
Yeah, 13, 14, yeah, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
When does that start, Lisa?
As soon as this initial dredging is done, you all will establish the district, and then we will develop the plan, which will basically say what areas will be dredged when, and then the residents and the property owners will know without doubt that those areas will be dredged like that. And this is nothing new. Holden Beach has this, Ocean Isle has this plan, and they've had it in place for years.
So nobody has to worry about making these payments until at least mid to late 2024.
Correct.
Possibly later. There's time to save money.
Right.
For it.
Does anyone else have anything? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
No more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.